All right, let's talk about something we all feel, right? The world is just getting more and more complicated. We have all this incredible knowledge at our fingertips, but how do we actually use it, without just getting totally overwhelmed? Well, that's what we're going to dive into today, the systems we can build to master all that complexity. And this quote from surgeon and author Atul Gawande, wow, it just nails the problem, doesn't it? He's basically saying we have the knowledge to do amazing things, but our own brains, they just can't keep up anymore. The problem isn't what we know, it's how we manage it. And that leads to this really core idea. We're now failing more from what's called ineptitude than from ignorance. Think about that. It's not that we don't have the answers anymore. It's that we have the answers, but we're failing to apply them correctly. And that is a huge, huge shift in the kind of problems we're up against. So that's the big question, right? In a world this complex, how do we get things right? And the answer isn't just try harder or get more training. Nope, we need a totally different strategy. We need new tools. So let's go find them. Okay, first up, let's really dig into this whole problem of ineptitude thing. It's such a crucial distinction to make. See, we usually think failure happens because we just don't know enough, right? But the real problem today is often something completely different. Getting the difference between ignorance and ineptitude. That's the key to everything. And this comparison just lays it all out. On one side, you've got ignorance. That's old school failure. We fail because the knowledge just doesn't exist yet. Think of an explorer with an incomplete map. But on the other side, you've got ineptitude. And that's our modern problem. We fail because the knowledge is right there, but we mess up applying it. It's the skyscraper that fails even though we know the engineering. It's the diagnosis that's missed even with a clear x-ray. It's all about execution. I mean, just look at medicine. It's the perfect example of this. The World Health Organization classifies over 13,000 different diseases. Doctors have thousands of drugs and procedures to choose from. A single doctor might have to evaluate 250 different diseases in a year. That is just a staggering amount of information to juggle. So is it any wonder that studies show a huge percentage of patients get incomplete care? The complexity is just overwhelming. And get this, back in 2006, if you had a heart attack, your chance of getting a critical life-saving therapy within the recommended 90 minutes was less than 50%. Less than half. So the knowledge was there, the procedure was known, but actually doing it right, every single time, under pressure, that was incredibly hard. Okay, so if the problem is execution, what's the fix? Well, let's look at our first tool. And I gotta tell you, it's gonna sound almost insultingly simple, but this one tool, the checklist, proved its power in one of the most high-stakes situations you can imagine. This story is just amazing. So back in 1935, the US Army is testing its next-gen bomber, the B-17 Flying Fortress. And on a test flight, it crashes. The pilot was one of the best in the world. The investigation found that it wasn't a mechanical failure or a lack of skill. The plane was just, and I'm quoting here, too much airplane for one man to fly. His memory, his ability to juggle all the steps, was the single point of failure. So what was the solution? More training? A simpler plane? Nope. The solution was a checklist. That's it. A simple list of really basic stuff, like making sure the flight controls were unlocked. And with that simple piece of paper, pilots flew the B-17 for nearly 2 million miles without a single accident. It turned an unflyable plane into a legend. Okay, let's fast forward about 70 years. A doctor, Peter Pronovist, is looking at infections in the ICU. He comes up with these 5 simple steps to prevent them. And look at them. Wash hands, clean the patient's skin, wear sterile gear. This is stuff every single doctor already knows. It's basic. But he had a hunch that in the chaos of an ICU, these simple steps were getting missed. And the results? Well, look at this chart. It's absolutely staggering. Before the checklist, the 10-day infection rate was 11%. After the checklist, it dropped to 0. At just one hospital, this simple system prevented 43 infections and 8 deaths. The checklist was like a cognitive safety net for the doctor's expertise. So checklists are amazing for reliability, for making sure we do what we already know how to do correctly. But what about problems that are more open-ended? Where the solution isn't just a series of repeatable steps. For that, we need a totally new kind of partner. And that brings us to AI augmentation. Now, this is different from automation, where you just tell a machine what to do. No, this is about working with an AI as a thinking partner. It's for those fuzzy, open-ended problems that require exploration. Brainstorming, designing a new product, mapping out a strategy. It's all about exploration. But to be a good partner to an AI, you need a framework. So think of these 4Ds as a kind of mental checklist for working with AI. First, there's delegation. What work is good for the AI and what's best for a human? Next is description. How clearly can you communicate what you want? Then, discernment. You have to be able to critically evaluate what the AI gives you. Is it right? Is it good? And finally, diligence. You are still responsible for the outcome. You have to focus on the ethics and safety of what you're doing together. And here's a great little example of this in action. A user didn't just ask the AI Claude for an answer. Instead, they prompted Claude to build a custom under-the-hood view for them. See what's happening? That's true collaboration. They're not just getting an answer. They're using the AI to build a better tool to help them think. Okay, so for this last part, let's bring this all home. We've seen how systems can help us fly planes and save lives in hospitals. But what if? What if we could apply that same kind of intentional design to the most complex system of all, our own lives? Because at the end of the day, that's what we do as humans, right? We're tool builders. From the first stone axe all the way up to checklists and AI, we build tools to manage the world around us. So maybe the next big frontier is building systems for our own lives, for our own goals. Here's a really powerful idea borrowed from computer science. It's called policy/mechanism separation. Basically, you separate what you want to achieve, that's your policy, from how you're going to achieve it. That's the mechanism. So let's say your policy is be financially independent. Your mechanism could be your job, or a side hustle, or investing. If one of those mechanisms fails, say you lose your job, you don't have to give up on the goal. You just find a new mechanism. And you could apply all sorts of these system design principles to your life. Take modularity. You partition your life into areas like work and family, so stress in one doesn't crash the whole system. Or fault tolerance. That's like having a 6-month emergency fund in case you lose your job. You can even use common case specialization, like creating a simple work uniform so you don't waste brain power on it every day. These aren't just nerdy terms. They're actual blueprints for a more intentional, resilient life. All right, so we've gone from 1930s airplanes to AI co-pilots to designing our own lives. What's the one big takeaway from all of this? It's this: from a simple checklist to how you prompt an AI, to how you design your life. The real solution to complexity is a system. It's about getting past the idea that we can just rely on our own memory or pure effort. The answer is to build intelligent systems that help us handle everything coming at us. And this is so important to remember. These systems don't replace our expertise. They create a safety net so our expertise can shine. A pilot's checklist doesn't make him any less of a pilot, right? It just frees up his mind to deal with the unexpected storm or a sudden mechanical issue. These systems handle the basic stuff so that we can use our human skills, our creativity, our judgment on the problems that really, truly matter. So I'll leave you with this question. Look at your own life, your work, your health, your goals. Where could a simple, intentional system make all the difference? What systems are you going to design?